light for you in dark places when all other lights go out.
Hey guys, it's DCHL Devin here.
And DCHL Jake.
And welcome to another episode of A Light in the Dark. And today is the question answer portion of our videos. I'm going to go ahead and answer a lot of the questions that we've been receiving in the comments section below. Now, just so you guys know, I know it's been a little bit since I've posted a video. However, I do respond to your questions immediately in the comments section. So this is just me giving a video response to questions that I've already answered. So today we have a special guest, Jake, here, obviously, as you said, and he's going to help me go through these. So first question we have is from Crotocon. He says, "Hi, thanks for the video. Where can I find the rules scenario for Chaos in Arda?" So, guys, if you don't know Chaos in Arda, actually, Jake, you've played this a couple times.
Yeah, it's actually one of my favorite scenarios. There's nothing, you don't play it if you're competitive, because there's no competitive nature about it. It's just, it's a really fun, I like to say beer and pretzels game, because you pick it up and the cards really add a whole new dynamic to the game, and it just makes everything really, really fun and challenging.
Exactly, guys. It's just a fun game, nothing serious. But if you want to take a look at it, because this is at both Nova and at Ardacon, the rules can be found on DCHobbitLeague.com in the the fan-made supplements. That's the section. It's in the documents section. Probably one of the most popular sections to look through in our website. So, yeah, take a look there, and you'll see it's all for download. Just keep in mind, when you look at the objectives cards, you have to print them 3 times, and then the special cards once each. So it should be a total of 7 sheets that you're printing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look on there. You'll see that there's a bunch of cards with a bunch of special rules that are really ridiculous and silly. And so that's where you find those. But yeah, it should be a total of 7 sheets once you're done printing. So next question comes from Joseph Hanlon. He says, "Hey Devin, I have a question concerning the scenario and the mummic." He's referring to the scenario Weapon of the Enemy from Nova. He asks, how does not being able to stand on a dropped jewel affect the mummic's trampling? Can it move over top the jewels so long as it doesn't finish its move on it? What if it tramples and the jewel is dropped in its ending position? Does it have to stay back? So this was actually a question that caused us to pause a little bit. What he's referring to, just to give it some context, Weapon of the Enemy is the final scenario in Nova, which represents you bringing the ring to Mount Doom. However, you're not allowed to interact with the opponent's jewel. You can kill the person carrying it, but once it drops, and you can't really touch it. But of course, this makes a stop for
they pretty much made the rules so you don't take Sauron and just park him on top of the enemy's jewel, so that way they can never get to it.
But also, we don't want you parking mummics on it either.
Yeah.
So
my opinion with that is just like in the beginning. You can't park a model on it, but if you do, say the mummic ends just moving on top of the ring, the ring would take the shortest route possible to the edge of the base. Now I can see that growing really stupid, and people might try and chain it to run the ring off of the board,
ultimately you're moving it a max of if you do try to cheese ball it in that way, you're moving it at a max of 2 inches.
Maybe
4
with the mummic.
Yeah, with its base is so large. But ultimately we can't have it be a doorstop to the mummic. That's going to be insane. So, essentially, if you run the mummic, that would be the most. Just imagine if we ruled it the other way, guys. Literally, it would be just a mummic's coming. Ooh, shiny. Drop it. No.
Who is it? Smaug is landing. Throw the ring down. He can't land.
It'd be pretty dumb. So, guys, we got a rule in the favor of it just moves shortest possible distance.
Yeah.
The mummic, we don't want him standing on it either, because try to get a mummic to move, the rules state you can't.
Literally, you can't.
Literally. So, Definitely not, and that's how it's going to be ruled at Nova. So, and probably for future reference, it's actually a really fun scenario. So if you guys ever want to try to clone it, for your own events, go ahead, feel free.
Yeah.
So next we have one from George Athos. He says, can you make a video of how to play and buy a Lothlórien army? I mean, Galadrim infantry, cavalry, wood elves, Haldir, Rummel, etc.
I actually see that list a lot. I've played against it personally. And I find myself when I play my Mirkwood list, instead of wanting to take Palace Guard, I end up taking the Galadrim Court because they're already fight 6 and they got glaives.
They're actually just better priced for what they do.
But then again, most people, I like Fluffy and the Galadrim Court, they literally never leave the Galadrim Court. So why would Galadrim Court be fighting in Mordor? I try and keep a Fluffy that way, which is why I take Palace Guard over them. But I see that Lothlórien list a lot, especially with Rumil. Rumil is awesome.
You played against Rumil?
Yeah, he's the one where he makes you reroll 6s, right? Yeah, he's a complete jerk face.
All right. Guys, I know this must be it's got to be a burning question. Like, okay, this is obviously the most popular elven army. We've done Mirkwood.
Yeah.
We've even done the High Elves, but we skipped the Galadrim. This is for really no reason. So yeah, definitely going to do one of those videos. I'll make sure to get one out. They are a very popular video series. Actually, some of them need to be redone because you can tell I got better at editing as time went on. Rohan looks a lot better than the Dwarven one that we did. So I will go ahead and make sure to get one out very soon. If anything, maybe Jake, you could help me out with that one.
I'm more than happy.
Yep, look forward to seeing that this week. I'm definitely going to try to get that one out. It's about time we just finish the series of how to play, how to buy, and just in time for Adam Trolk to redo all the books. So, just for you guys. That's actually, in all honesty, guys, that's one thing at first that did hold me back was, what if they rewrite the source books? Well, judging by Nova and Articon and everything that's going on, we're not really thinking that the books are going to get rewritten before Articon. Now, I'm not implying that Articon and GW have any link. What I'm saying is that I imagine, that the GBHL, they know Adam Trolk, they talked to him. There may have been something along the lines of, hey, should we worry about anything? And then Adam Trolk may casually mention, nah, not really. So I don't think we're going to receive an update anytime soon. So therefore, yes, we will get the videos out. We'll get back on track with that. So the next one is from Donkey Kong 0303.
Donkey Kong?
Donkey Kong. So he says, can you Fury as many times as you want? Does it not cost will? So I think what you're asking is if you have to cast it multiple times.
It sounds, I don't even know. Does it not cost will? Is it the save itself that?
I think he means the second, third time you cast it. So just to clarify this, make sure you know, Fury is an exhaustion spell, which means it just stays active for as long as you have will.
As long as you have will, you have Fury active the entire time. You don't have to recast it.
Yep. What this may be confused for is like Blinding Light. Blinding Light you do have to recast over and over again. I have no idea why. I think the designers couldn't think of a channeled version and just came up with that. So, but yeah, you only cast it one time and it just goes. And once you run out of will, that's the end of it.
Make sure to stay away from ring wraiths.
Yeah, well,
end it real fast.
If you see a ring wraith on the field, I wouldn't even really bother casting it unless you want to distract their attention.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just stick with Transfix. So next we got from Sebastian Ritchie. He says, if there is no shield on a model itself, can you equip a shield and +1 defense?
So to me, we don't really do a lot of WYSIWYG, but as long as the model has the option to purchase a shield, yeah, that's fine. I mean, just let your opponent know, hey, this model has a shield. As long as they know in the beginning, don't surprise them with it and be like, oh, I wounded him. Oh, no, in reality, he's D7, you wound him on 6.
Yeah, and that's actually interesting you met that. We just had we had a tournament at Cold Wars where one of the players thought that, like, let's say you give him heavy armor. and he already has armor, so he's at defense 5. But then you give him heavy armor, which is +2. That means he goes to defense 7. That's what he thought. He didn't think you swap it out.
Heavy
Yeah, no. No, you take the armor. Just so you know, in case some of you guys think that. No, you take the armor off, and then you put the heavy armor on. He's changing his clothes, and then the shield. Yeah, you have to have it equipped.
I don't know why that's so funny. I'm trying to picture it already in heavy armor, and he's got a whole bunch of like goblin scribes running around, and he's like,
put him on.
Put him on.
I feel like this is what the dwarves do.
I don't care about moving my neck. Just put as much metal on my body as you can. Roll me down at the enemy. Shoot me through a catapult.
The tactic of... well, yeah. Just make sure it has it in this profile, and yes, you can equip it.
Yeah.
And once again, DCHL events do not play by WYSIWYG. Only GBHL does. So you do not have to have a shield. You can tell us that it has a shield, and we will go with it.
We also do proxies.
Yes, we do proxies as well. Heck, you don't even need GW miniatures. You literally could come to Nova or any DCHL tournament with an army of gripping beast Viking herdsmen and tell us that as long as it's painted correctly, you can show up with it, and we don't mind. We do not force you to buy GW products to play Lord of the Rings.
The only thing we disapprove of is
looking
saying
for
this is a
don't
Balrog.
Do not hold your Coke can and say that there's rules for this. There are obviously rules. You can't show up with a little miniature, a goblin, and say this is the king of Gondor. Okay, no. It needs to look the part. So it needs to look like you made an effort, as long as I can recognize it as, oh, that's, what you think it is.
Yeah.
So, anyway, speaking of Balrogs, Nick Cottle asks, do you ever see a Balrog? I've noticed no one uses him in the GBHL or DCHL. Seems like a great model.
He is an awesome model, but when you look at the fact that he doesn't have might, which means he can't call heroic fights, he can't call heroic really anything.
Yeah.
You're a big giant point sink. You're spending 400 points on a model that I'm going to throw one Gondorian at a turn, and he can literally do nothing about it.
Well, keep in mind, though, he does have strength 10.
He does have strength, which
so
means
he's going to hurl something. Well, he'll hurl it.
Well,
I mean, that's a 7 strength difference on most models.
But if you're spending 400 points on a model and all I'm
you're going to want to do is
hurl
hurl
with him, I think I've won.
Yeah, that's true.
I
mean, ultimately, the thing is, we have to acknowledge he's a point sink, guys.
Yeah.
He's
So
a massive point sink. He really struggles to make his points back. And when I say make his points back, it's not like siege weapons, where the point of a siege weapon isn't to make its points back. It's the psychological effect it has. The Balrog does have a psychological effect, but at the cost of 400 points, you also need a guy who's going to kill 400 points worth of stuff.
A big thing, he moves 6 inches. He's got wings, but
he can't fly, so he's not a very mobile model. Not nearly as much as you might think.
Maybe if he flew, I might see taking him. Because
if he flew, he'd be pretty nasty.
Fine. But 6 inch move, you're better just on it in every way. You're better taking Sauron.
Yep.
Like in every way.
Now, I will say I had a conversation with this guy on the chats. As I said, I do respond to your questions, and he did say that he's thinking about bringing this model to Nova. I would be very inviting of a Balrog model. Most people who come to Nova play for fun, so play with what makes you happy.
Yep.
And if what makes you happy is a fight 10, strength 10 demon from the underworld, then yeah, you should bring it. So you absolutely bring it. So I think it'll be funny if he goes up against Smaug. No, it wouldn't be funny. That would not be fun at all.
It would not be fun at all. There'd be one of them would die horrifically.
All right, never mind. Don't do that. Bring him somewhere else.
First round's going to be against Goblin Town. He's going to hate his existence.
We'll put you up against Goblin Town. You bring a Balrog, and we're putting you up against Shireless, Goblin Townless.
Throwing children.
We're going to make sure you have fun at Nova Open. So, anyway.
But yeah, so the main reason why you don't see him, he's not competitive.
Yeah.
And that, especially Nova. At the GT, I think you will be the only one having one, just because he's not a competitor.
I think you could bring this guy to Ardacon.
Yes.
With 120 players, and you still wouldn't see a Balrog. Then you'll be really confused.
You're like, wait a minute.
Does GW not make this model?
Why don't people buy this?
No. All right, guys. So the next question is from Twinkle Cave. He says, "Hey guys, great content. This is a question you've probably answered in part before, but Floi and Gulavhar, if he negates Gulavhar's wounds equal courage and attacks, what happens? Does he have 0, 1, or 4 for his stats?" And just before we answer that, Sebastian McCormick says, similar question for Tom Bombadil.
Okay, so the way I would look at Gulavhar, so Floi does his thing, blah, 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 negates it. The book says you can never drop below 1.
Yes.
But you can use that in conjunction if he's in a fight, and then you only have to wound him one time and he's dead.
No. His wounds don't change. It's just his attacks and his courage.
Equal his courage.
Yep, equals wounds.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So the wounds are not, he won't auto die. But yeah, essentially, because his attacks and courage would equal his wounds. Now, here's the thing.
Oh, it would help you in combat, I guess.
You would be very tempted to say that, it must go to 1 or 0. Mm-hmm. Okay. This is the argument I want to say. Now, I'm trying to make sure that Tom Bombadil. So Tom Bombadil, let me first answer Tom Bombadil. You see where I'm getting at. Tom Bombadil basically has no stat line at all. It's all question marks. Mm-hmm. So actually, you know what? I do have the answer to this. Tom Bombadil has all question marks. However, he has nothing in his rules that say his stat line is equal to anything. So if you take away, he has nothing to take away. Floi couldn't take away a rule, so he just stays at question mark. So basically, yeah, Floi, if you take away his special rules, if you use Floi to take away Tom Bombadil's special rules, all it means is that you can charge him, but you can't kill him. His stat line, nothing happens to it. You just would be able to charge him at that point. You would go into combat, you'd roll dice, he'd roll nothing, you'd win, and then you can't strike against him because he's at nothing. So what the problem here is that some might confuse this interpretation to mean, Tom Bombadil must have a minimum of 1. Well, that's not really the case. He literally has a stat line of question marks. There is no number for it. Mm-hmm. So Gulavhar, some might be tempted to say the same thing. Well, if you take away his rule, then his stat line is asterisk.
Which means but would that mean he doesn't have any attacks? He can't fight?
See, this is where I want to draw away from. Here's where I reference Sauron. Sauron has an asterisk in his fate section. Mm-hmm. So ultimately...
But that asterisk only counts if you pay the points for the ring. Other than that, the asterisk literally doesn't matter.
Yeah, and so therefore it becomes 0.
He has 0 fate.
So I guess, he has 0 fate. So then does the Gulavhar stat line become 0 attacks and 0 courage?
No, because if you have 0 courage, you run away. You're gone.
No, you don't run away. There's no rule stating if you have 0. Yeah, there's nothing.
But the rule book says nothing can drop below 0. You can have 0.
I'm going to assume it means the basic stat line function. So here's what I would rule at Nova. So you see the conundrum, and there's kind of weird, the situation changes a little bit. I would say that Gulavhar goes to a minimum of 1. Why? Because it's the base stat line. That's what's changing. Okay, so it goes to a 1. All right. Mm-hmm. And then you have, and I'd love to say that this rule in itself can't be taken away. This is the weird part. Some would argue that it can't be taken away at all. If you look at, let's say the Mumakil, it has a whole plethora of special rules that, okay, can I take those away? No, you really can't.
Could Floi take away Unstoppable?
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Can he take these other crazy special rules? Could he take away Smaug's special rule and make him move?
Yeah, could take away
so there's a lot of big questions with Floi because of his ability to break profiles.
He's
Well, he says he's like Deadpool.
he uses an eraser and he just, the writer didn't need that special rule.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, no, that helped balance the game, but...
That's awesome, actually. Why couldn't you take away immovable object?
Well, we'll probably have to research into that further, get a more of a polling answer on it. But as of right now, what I'd say is Gulavhar is at stat 1, all right, because you can't go below it, all right, and you have to have something.
Unless you're Tom Bombadil.
Fate is not a base stat line, so it can go to 0. And then Tom Bombadil, I think the use of question marks, this is where we're going to have to go into rules as intended rather than written. Yeah, it's like, it's clearly obvious that the designers didn't want him to be fought and just didn't think of Floi as an answer to that.
That's how you kill gods.
Yeah, Floi, if you want to kill a god of Middle Earth, bring Floi. That's what you should learn from this.
He read the book somewhere that God's weaknesses are their face. You just hit them in their face and they're fine.
But yeah, I'd like to see what you guys think on this. Fan community base, what do you guys think happened? But ultimately, that's what we would rule. That is because it's a base stat line, it would be brought to a minimum of 1, and therefore, because I can't see him having 0.
Yeah.
That doesn't sit well with the way asterisks seem to be intended to be used. This is actually another key point is, and someone brought this up, what if Harbinger of Evil affects him? So Harbinger of Evil, I believe, does that give you -1 to your courage?
It just gives you minus to the die roll.
Yeah, to the test. Okay. Yeah. So basically, if you get a positive or negative modifier, though, somehow to his courage, we actually ruled that it doesn't change. It stays at 4 because it's always equal to his courage.
Yep.
So he's a very tricky model with Floi. But yes, if you bring him to like Nova and stuff, then yeah, he would go to attacks of 1. Until we rule otherwise that, in fact, that is not a special rule, but an explanation for the asterisks. That is the way I'm actually leaning toward as well. It's just an explanation, and therefore it's not really a special rule. Once again, tough call, because actually it doesn't mention it as a special rule the same way that other special rules are.
Yeah, it doesn't say it's an actual special rule, or it's listed under special rules, right? It just says it.
Yeah. All right, then what do you guys think? I'm actually going to take a vote with a lot of my guys. I want to get a lot of opinions on this. Is it a special rule, or is it just simply an explanation?
What book is Gulavhar?
He's actually in Angmar. You won't find him in that book.
That's a good question, because if it's not listed under special rules...
It's just it's under the special rules, but okay. It's like one rule, next rule, and then there's an asterisk with his rule. That's weird. So, yeah, it makes it a very weird
conundrum.
Yeah, problem. But right now I'm inclined to say 1 attack, 1 courage.
And then you have a round to deal with him.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then everything's going back up and he's just going to be a real mad vampire.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, we're going to go to Wah. He says, great video, DCHL. Question, what makes you tick? The SPG hobby has been around for a long time. It's been stagnant for a while in the sense that we haven't had new models or books for quite some time. Yet, I am more into SPG hobby than I am into 40K or Age of Sigmar, which is strange for me as I've got a massive armies in those systems. Indeed, those 2 systems are what got me into tabletop wargaming in the first place. So what is it about SPG that makes it such a potent hobby? Your thoughts?
So I'm a lot like you. I started doing this hobby over 15 years ago, and I started with 40K. And it was great back when, power weapons ignored all armor and there was a whole bunch of shenanigans. But 40K to me has gotten to a point where it's a big competitive scene, and in order to do it in any tournament, there's like 2 or 3 lists that you'll see in the top 3 everywhere, and it's gotten to a point where it's nothing but Death Star lists or spamming of Psychers for invisibility, and it's just gotten so bad that you can't play a fluffy list. You can't play a list that makes you happy and be anywhere near the top if you want to try and be competitive.
And this is actually something I always bring up. I don't even think 40K is really all that great of a game. Now, I say that not as an SPG player, but I'm like, when you look at the game system, it's not balanced. Even 40K players will tell you it's not balanced. It's clearly not balanced.
If they say it's balanced, you're lying.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's impossible to balance. There's so many special rules, and there's so much going on that it is impossible to balance that game. There's no way, the points are just arbitrary numbers that the game designers think it should be worth. There's no system. And you can't make a system. You ultimately cannot make a system for how it works. So then the question gets asked, well, you know, if SPG is such a good game and 40K is such a bad game, why does everyone play 40K? And this is where it really comes down to gamer inertia. All right? Everybody plays 40K because everybody plays 40K. And no one plays Lord of the Rings because no one plays Lord of the Rings. That's really as simple as it is. I mean, ultimately, people get into this when they see people playing the game. So that's one side of it.
Yeah.
We're mentioning the competitive aspect. Lord of the Rings is well balanced. Very difficult to find an army that can't compete under any circumstances with another army. Very difficult to find models that are absolutely useless. I mean, obviously Theoden and whatnot, but we have very few in
I
comparison.
think there's like 2 or 3 in the entire game that you would never take.
Yeah.
But one thing with me is I'm big on things that make sense. And I'm going to bring up a couple scenarios. One, Space Marines. And running and shooting. All right, I was in the military. I know how to run and fire a weapon at the same time. Why on earth can't this genetically modified human run and shoot a gun at the same time? It's like they can't walk and chew gum at the same time. Really? All right. Number 2, I know a specific instance where there's a wall. It's not impassable, which means tanks can go through it. Okay, cool. So the tank goes through it, but now it's on the other side of the wall. Does that mean people over here can't shoot at it because there's a wall in the way, but the tank just drove through? So somehow the wall just reformed and they can't shoot at the tank even though it just barreled through and completed like a big giant hole. Like, it's things like that that just make
the fact that
no sense.
Terrain jumps out of your way.
Yeah.
I always say it like that. Basically what I mean is you take the highest save that you get, cover save or armor save. But of course, usually your armor save is always going to be higher. So the funny part is, when you fire regular bullets at trees, you go through those trees, or the trees are like running.
Shoot him. I got no beef with you. Shoot that guy.
But if you fire a tank shell, then God, those trees are going to stop it. They're going to stop that tank shell. So it is a bit absurd.
It baffles me, some of these things that are like so blatantly obvious. Okay, I say blatantly obvious, but only to people that have had experience with weapons or anything. But come on, man.
So I guess to sum that part up, I mean, so we got competitiveness. The scene is just a lot more annoying as far as what can and cannot win. You don't feel like that sense of like when you win that you did it through your own sheer skill. You almost feel like, okay, well, I had to make this list that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Number 2, the rules don't make sense. The world doesn't make sense, whereas Lord of the Rings makes a lot more sense. And number 3, I think simply put, I would love to say, now keep in mind, it's very easy to say the answer of Tolkien has a stronger lore. I'm going to ignore that answer, mostly because I do think 40K actually has a pretty interesting lore in many respects. It's not bad.
I mean, I would love if they progressed it a little bit.
I
love the lore of 40K.
I think, though, what keeps me ticking about SPG is, just the competitive side. I feel like when I win a game, it was due to sheer skill and not because I power gamed the opponent.
Yeah.
So
like you beat me with hobbits. I was playing ring wraiths. I was playing ring wraiths on flying Nazgul, the most terrifying thing in the game, and they got chopped to bits by kids with axes. Like,
and in a realistic way. I mean, it wasn't like it seemed like retarded dice or something.
No, it's just you throw enough things at something, it's just like Rear Guard. Drown it in bodies.
But yeah, these are the things that for us make us continue with it.
Yeah.
I always say that if 40K played like Lord of the Rings, I'd probably be playing 40K a lot more. Yep. It's the competitive, balanced version of the game. When I say competitive, I mean as in it's competitive, like it takes strategy to win this game. It takes a concept of being able to understand your opponent, understand the lists, and just being able to work through it in a much more detailed degree than 40K, in my opinion. I think 40K, you bring certain lists, you're just
You're just gonna you can have someone who's brand new to the game go online, grab the list of a tournament winner, and win the next tournament with it. Like there's no you have.
I mean, they have to understand certain things, of course, but that's for us. It's the balance of the game system.
Yeah.
It's the how well the models are done, and also I mean, it's easier to balance in the sense that there's not so many special rules holding this game down.
Yeah.
So, and that's really important, and I hope Adam Troll keeps to that. 1 or 2 special rules per model max, unless it's like something like a Watcher. You know, just keep it short, simple, and that makes it great. So, anyway, I'd like to hear your thoughts. What keeps you in it? Is it just, you know, is it the Tolkien lore? Is that what keeps you in it? Then okay, great. You know, but I often try to think of it as, you know, what about the game? Tolkien aside, lore aside, what about the game keeps me in it?
Yeah.
And that I think is something that keeps me in it. So last question, guys. Getting a little long-winded on this one. You know me, I like to keep the videos short. It's Ian the Beast. He says, hi, I live in Middle Tennessee, and I'm thinking about going to Nova. Nova will be my first tournament, and I was wondering if there are any tournaments closer to where I live. No.
There's not much
so
in Tennessee.
GBHL James puts this best. I mean, realistically, England and Germany and all those other countries have a major advantage over the U.S. They're smaller, much smaller. Yeah. So the population is more concentrated. We have to reach far. We can't. I mean, there's a North Carolina group going and a New York group growing, and we can't even keep up with them.
Yeah.
Just driving to the next state for our Cold Wars tournament took us like 2 hours just to hit the border. And I mean, yeah, and so I mean, you're looking at if we wanted to go to the North Carolina team, it would take us 6 hours.
Minimum.
Yeah,
Traffic.
And so now you're talking about Tennessee, you're talking about like a 12-hour trip, and so our player base is just not strong out there. We couldn't guarantee enough players to even make it a real tournament.
If there was, for some reason, like a hole out there that had like 60 Hobbit players, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you have 20 Hobbit players, then we'll throw something together and make some kind of event. I can't guarantee all of us would be there, of course. But, you know, we've thought about migrating to Adepticon, which is in Chicago, depending on what the events are there that happen. So, yeah, I mean, it's possible that one day, but right now, no, absolutely not. But if you guys want to try to merge with us and make Nova the GT, so that's what we're trying to do right now, is make Nova the GT for America. Not just the DCHL, but America in general. If we can get all the groups to work together, we might be able to create a strong enough interest and a strong enough force of players that we can make something pretty awesome. And if other people at Nova see a tournament that big, and keep in mind, we run events at Historicon as well. And that's a major event in the country. Historicon is one of the biggest historical miniatures gaming conventions, and we run events there too. So people see the game, they get into it. Highly recommend you do the same, because these players, I mean, we met 6 guys from Kentucky.
Yeah.
We should have never played with anyone from Kentucky. We don't know anyone from Kentucky. There's no way I'm going to be announcing tomorrow, hey guys, tournament in Kentucky, let's go. But we met 6 players. So this keeps up the community in like that larger sense, that we all meet together at least once to get something. If you guys have a big tournament, let's say California or Adepticon or wherever, and you guys are like, hey, I'm throwing us something big, and we're going to have like minimum 30 players, you know, something big for America.
That'd be worth the trip.
Yeah, I'd make the trip. I'd actually advertise that for you. I'd help you guys out. So if you guys want to create something that you know will be a big event, then I will absolutely promote your event. So anyway, guys.
That goes for anybody, honestly. Nope. Like if you're looking at this from California or wherever, if you anything big enough, I'm sure one of us, if not both, will be able to get out there.
Yep, absolutely. I think it'll be fantastic to grow the hobby in the U.S. So, all right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up today. We'll probably just fill up the rest of the questions at another time. But yeah, let us know what you guys think about the Gulavhar concept and everything else. I think that was all the questions we asked the audience today. But we will see you guys very soon.